Um, as we look to actually get our first iteration out the door, we've kind of gone back and forth on how to test it. We've been told like, oh yeah, you can bring in like a more formal, like professional testing component like Helix, or you can rely on the factory and maybe some like um, qualitative like testing with a limited amount of consumers. Like what, I guess, what are you leaning more towards in terms of like testing it? And we've talked to a couple of other people who said like, oh, what you get out of Helix could change significantly, like the design, and that could be something that could like set us back in terms of time. So with all that kind of like in mind, what are you leaning towards?
So I mean, it sounds like those third-party testers like Helix, they're not super expensive. Um, so I've always kind of leaned towards let's just test it with more sources, more people. Let's get more data, and then just because this is an expensive endeavor, we were talking about this before, but like if we do some kind of like third-party testing, and then we get feedback that it's not going to work in the way that we want it to work, or there's some kind of fatal flaw, think that's actually a good thing. Like obviously it's a bad thing that we have that in the shoe, but it's a good thing because we caught it before we spent a ton of money kind of developing shoes that are not really going to work. So I
Yeah.
think, I mean, to the extent that it's reasonably priced, I think it makes, especially because we never done this before and we don't really know how to look for fatal flaws. I think the more testing that we can do, the better. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like that price is amortized over however many shoes, right? So even if it's like a couple $1,000 or $5,000, like on a per shoe basis, that's really not that much, and it's probably potentially going to save you a lot of money. So I think that's been one of the like more interesting things that we've heard from certain people. They're like, they recommend that you penny pinch in areas that are actually like very important. And then in
Yeah.
other areas that are um, not as important, they're like, oh yeah, you should just spend a ton of money in this area. So I think for me and you, it's kind of like this is our money on the line. This is our reputation on the line. This is our branding on the line. So I'd rather be a little bit more cautious and do more testing rather than less, because we were talking about this before too. Like, failing fast, that's kind of a common mantra that you hear in the startup world, but it doesn't really work for every industry. And if we fail in certain ways, then that's kind of it for our reputation in this space and our brand. So I just want to make sure that we don't, if there's like avoidable things that we could figure out with testing, that we go ahead and do that rather than just trusting that our factory is going to be able to catch everything.
I 100% agree. Like it just kind of makes so much sense for us to go and get more testing if it's available to us, especially at the price point. Like it just doesn't, it just isn't smart not to. And so like I am 100% in agreement with that. And I also think about like the amount of time that we've kind of like been able to communicate with, the people within our networks about this product. And so it's like they know that we've been working on this for over a year or so. Some have been around since the very beginning. And if we were to release a product that failed miserably because of something that could have been caught in testing, then that just like it kind of like goes and hits our credibility. Because obviously they know that we didn't really have a footwear background, but then these guys also didn't go and you know, do what they were supposed to do and bring in people who could actually, or bring in entities who could actually test the product and make sure that it's going to work. So I think it's just part of like what we have to do. Like I don't,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's also like for us being able to like stand confidently behind our product. If we didn't tick every box that we could have in terms of testing, then there's always going to be that in our head. We're going to kind of be like, yeah, I believe in this product more or less based on what we've been told, but there's a certain type of testing that we could have done but didn't do. So I think once you like, basically I'm saying like we should leave no stone unturned, more or less, within reason, with testing, because the more testing that we do and the more positive feedback that comes back, the more confident we can be in making some claims about our product. And I think there's also like the marketing aspect, right? We can say it's been tested in all these different ways and it came back positive, versus being like, yeah, we, did quick and dirty testing, or, we're planning to fail fast. So if there's any issues, just let us know and then we'll fix it in the next iteration.